Hey, welcome to the exchange. In this video, I want to cover the NEO short seller report by Grizzly Research, looking at what the allegations actually are, and also if they're true, what the effects could be for long-term NEO shareholders. So this is the actual NEO PDF or NEO short seller report. It's a 29-page document, very, very thorough. I'm gonna link both the website and the document down below, that way you can check on your own time. But let's dive into it real fast. So this is the most complex part of this entire short seller report. And really, to understand this, you understand three different parties right here. So you have NEO itself as the enterprise. You have basically end consumers, basically consumers of NEO products, so basically the vehicles and the batteries themselves. You also have this third party out here called Wuhan Wind Edge. So what happens basically is NEO sells cars without batteries to the general public right here you see in the middle. What they do is they sell those batteries directly to Wuhan Wind Edge. Wuhan Wind Edge provides those batteries as needed at NEO substations or battery swap stations as needed. That the actual subscribers themselves pay a monthly fee for that battery rights. That fee goes to Wuhan Wind Edge as basically a one-time monthly payment itself. Now they keep that entire fee in Wuhan Wind Edge. Now what NEO does is they basically collect the revenue on themselves on the entire battery sale. Which again, this is totally legit. This is totally fine. The problem right now is really, hey, like related party transactions and revenue recognition wise can get very complex very fast if you're not careful. So I know that was very complex and hard to understand. Let's do a quick little example to kind of break it down what this actually means. So this example, let's pretend that Wuhan Wind Edge does not exist. Everything is B2C, so NEO is straight to consumers overall. Let's say the consumers pay $10 per month for the battery swap right, so it's $120 per year. So what happens in this case, hey, let's say it's January, consumers pay $10 to NEO per user. So hey, revenue recognized in January is $10. Hey, February, same thing, $10. March, same thing, $10 itself. Let's say NEO gets greedy. They're like, hey, this is not bad revenue, but we want to juice the revenue up even faster. We want to grow even faster, have great earnings, have great fiscal reports and everything else too. What could we possibly do to boost revenue? So one possibility is actually adding a third-party reseller, just like Wuhan Wind Edge is. So in this case, the consumers themselves pay the sub fees to Wuhan Wind Edge, but Wuhan Wind Edge actually buys their batteries from NEO. So let's say in this case, Wuhan Wind Edge is getting $10 per month per user. What NEO could do is sell those batteries to Wuhan Wind Edge for $120, recognize a full year of revenue upfront at the point of sale. So let's say in January 1st, Wuhan Wind Edge gets $10 of revenue from the consumers, but NEO sells that battery to Wuhan Wind Edge for $120. Recognize that full revenue period upfront entirely early. And this is basically called bringing forward your revenue, which in some cases it's legal, but in this case, assuming it's a related party transaction, it'd be vastly, vastly illegal. And this actually would be fraud from an accounting perspective. So if it's actually a related party transaction, what that actually means is that Wuhan Wind Edge is actually a subsidiary of NEO itself. They're actually all one big company. So in that scenario I just gave you, what would happen is NEO would actually sell a battery for $120, would actually buy a battery from itself for $120, but then recognize revenue of $120. So again, it doesn't make any sense, but that's really the fraud here. It's basically a non-transaction transaction that boosts your revenue up even higher. That's really what the entire short seller report actually is about right there, is related party transactions at its core. This actual subsidiary, Wuhan Wenheng Battery Asset Co., was founded in August 2020. It was formed by NEO and a consortium of government entities and private investors like CATL. NEO holds a 19.8% stake in Wind Edge. So this is a breakdown of the org chart of the Wuhan Wind Edge Battery Co. and NEO itself. So you see right here, Fei Shen, he's a legal rep and chairman. He actually runs the Wuhan Wind Edge Battery Co. So this is his LinkedIn profile. He actually works for NEO. So it's literally almost like a NEO subsidiary that's not consolidated on their actual income statements themselves when it probably should be, which they have a very, very good point here. And if this is a US-based company, I mean, this would probably get them in trouble. This is basically accounting fraud, more or less. Let's look at the other one too. So you have Ronglang Lu. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He's a general manager and director. Let's scroll down here. That's his LinkedIn profile. You see right here, he works for NEO as well in the translation. He was a battery operating executive manager at NEO themselves. So both these executives basically are NEO executives. They're not even working for this company right here. This really is a subsidiary of NEO, through and through, and it should be actually on their balance sheet and on their income statement overall. So I mentioned my example, how basically NEO was selling off these batteries, my example, for $120 per year, basically recognizing a year's worth of revenue early. So you actually scroll down, and that's just 1 year. They're actually recognizing 7 years worth of revenue early. So they're actually, by selling off these assets to Wuhan Wind Edge Co., there's just massive revenue recognition. That's why revenue seen is just absolutely spiked up while the costs have remained the exact same, which is why the company looks so good right now on their balance sheet and on their income statement. Let's go back to the business model real fast again. So for NEO, for revenue, you have really two options. Either A, sell more cars to the consumers, or B, sell more batteries to Wuhan Wind Edge. So obviously selling more cars, I mean, there's certain demand there, supply constraints, everything else too. I mean, there's some challenges there, but selling batteries is super, super, super easy. And really your entire goal should be, if you're Neo, is stuff the channel with batteries. I mean, just sell batteries, whether they need them or not. It does not matter to Wuhan Winage, because at that point, hey, recognize revenue, everyone's happy on the Neo side. I mean, Wuhan Winage is going to hurt and suffer from that too, but that does not matter. That's the entire purpose of this shell company itself, to actually take those losses themselves. Hey, and to no surprise, I mean, that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing massive channel stuffing. So we know from Wuhan Winage's perspective, they actually have 19,000 current customers. They actually now on hand have 40,000 and 53 batteries. So they're basically 2x the batteries they actually do need right now, basically on hand, which is bad for them overall too. But for Neo, on this entire point, it makes them look so much better because they're recognizing income so much earlier than they actually should be overall. So according to the actual report itself, they're recognizing 1.47 billion RMB itself in additional revenue and 294 million in RMB in additional net income itself. So it's just massive, massive gains to overall Neo's base. So one cool thing they actually did in this short report, actually went into site analysis surveys, looking at actual battery swap stations, just seeing how busy they are, seeing what the actual utilization rate is. It almost be like scouting out gas stations in a way in the US, saying, hey, how busy they are, is demand there, does this model make sense overall? So what they did is they actually went to 25 different stations at 2-hour intervals and basically look at the actual cars, see how busy they were in that time period. They said, hey, rough average utilization itself was 39%. I mean, that is very, very low. I mean, I'd assume for this to be actual break even on a CapEx rate or ROI rate, I mean, you'd roughly be like 60% plus, even, have a prayer. I mean, 39% right now, they're really not even breaking even right now. I mean, this is showing, hey, this is basically a cash burn machine right now. It's showing, hey, demand's not there. Maybe the model itself is not quite viable in China or across the world. So this is the final report of basically the actual revenue pulled forward and the effects on net income as well too. So what they're saying right now is roughly 10% of revenue actually has been actually inflated overall. So this is the revenue pulled forward basically by the battery sales to Winage. Also looking at two is actual net income too as well. It's even worse. So you're seeing here reported net income of negative 1.8 billion RMB. They're saying the actual unadjusted true net income is actually negative 3.6 billion. So what that assumes is, going back to the first model here, that assumes that this Winage, Wuhan Winage is actually rolled up as a subsidiary like it probably should be under Neo itself, as basically one verticalized company with a subsidiary at the very bottom right there. So again, we'll see. I mean, if this is true, this is pretty damning for Neo overall. And if it's not true, obviously, then I mean, keep on. They should be all right in the long term. Hey, that's the Neo short seller report, though. I do want to leave on one point, though, real fast. So Neo's chairman and CEO Ben Lee is closely associated with Joy Capital and his founding partner, Mr. Liu, a known key player in the Luckin coffee fraud. If you haven't heard of Luckin coffee fraud, this looks pretty similar, honestly. I would just be warned about that. If you haven't heard of Luckin coffee before, hey, definitely just Google it. Hey, Luckin coffee fraud. I mean, there's articles all over the place. I mean, it's a pretty crazy fraud that blew up in 2020. So just be careful with that in the long term for a Neo investor. Hey, if you liked the video overall, be sure to tap the like button down below too. I'm also going to drop the actual PDF file in the description down below. Again, that way you guys can access it in your own time. But yeah, be sure to comment whether you're bullish or bearish, what your thoughts are on this, whether you think it's pure BS or whether you think, hey, this actually makes a lot of sense for Neo overall too. If you like the channel overall too, be sure to subscribe in the corner down there. I appreciate all support, and yeah, that's the exchange.